4, could you still factor it, or you still?
Yes, I would. If I have, for example, 3x to the 6th, let's say, minus 12x to the 3rd, and minus 9 divided by x cubed minus 1 squared, I would factor out a 3 and write x to the 6th minus 4x cubed and minus 3 divided by this. I would have done that. Yes. So this is an example. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, so let's talk about cost. Cost is, as you know, of two types, fixed and variable. Variable. So maybe I should say here total cost. Sorry, total cost. So the total cost, C of x, fixed cost, we normally denote it by, it doesn't matter really, it's just a number. This is a number. The variable cost is a function of x. Function of x. So the total cost will be fixed plus variable cost. But this is a function of x and this is a number. So this one depends on x. We produce whatever in order to get revenue. The target is profit, but we produce it and we sell. So this is a function of x, r of x. It's what we sell. And finally, the target is the profit. The profit is a function of x as well. What is x? Number of units produced and sold. Because if I produce them and I just put them on the shelf, I don't have revenue and I don't have profit. So I produce them and I sell them, and then I get revenue and I get the profit. So the relationship is that the profit equals the revenue minus the total cost. And there is something called break-even. Break-even means that the profit is 0. It's not desirable, but it's better than being a negative. So when is the profit 0? Is when these two quantities equal each other. Money that comes in is used for cost. There is no profit. So, or from here, of course I ran out of room. You already know that. I always run out of room. That's my page 6. Okay, so the revenue equals the total cost. Or the profit is 0. This is break even. The break even point is this x that gives us profit 0 or gives us revenue equals cost, comma, revenue of that number. This is the break even point. Okay, so now I would like to look at a problem. What are we interested in? Average profit. Yes, let's look at the average revenue, 56. 56 on page 155. Average revenue. Okay, Tongue-Tied Sauces Incorporated finds that the revenue in dollars from the sale of X bottles of barbecue sauce is given by. So they're giving us the revenue. R of X is 7.5 multiplied by X raised to power 0.7. Find the rate at which the average revenue is changing when 81 bottles of barbecue sauce have been produced and sold. So they're asking us to find, again, the rate at which average revenue is changing when the 81 bottles of barbecue are sold. So we do have something called average revenue, cost, profit. All these represent total revenue divided by the units, the number of units sold. Average cost, total cost divided by the number of units produced. Profit, profit of X, average profit, profit divided by the number of units. So when we are asked to find the average revenue for such and such, we have to create the average revenue. Average revenue is the revenue function divided by the number of units. So this is a new function. If you want to give it another name, you can. We can call it f of x. So f of x equals r of x divided by x. So then I will copy. Revenue is given to us 7.5 times x to 0.7 divided by x. Of course, I'm not going to use the quotient rule here. I will simplify. Can anyone give us the simplified form of this? X to which power?
Then it become x to the -1. You can pull x to the numerator.
From the power of the numerator, I subtract the power of the denominator. What do I get?
-0.3.
Very good. -0.3. So remember, x to the nth power over x to the mth power, xn minus m. That's the rule. So I have the function that represents the average revenue. So average revenue is 7.5 times x to -0.3. They're asking us again to find the rate of change of the average revenue exactly when 81 bottles are produced and sold. What do I need to do next?
Find the derivative.
Yes, so this was, I called it f of x for simplicity. I don't want to write all those words. So I have to find f prime of x. Who would like to help?
You multiply 7.5 by -0.3,
Good?
and then it's x and -0.3 minus 1.
Yes, 7.5 multiplied in parentheses by -0.3 and multiplied by x to -0.3 minus 1. How much is -0.3 minus 1? So this is -1.3. So the power is -1.3. Any questions so far? What will be the measurement unit for the average revenue?
Maybe the whole.
Dollars per
Bottle.
dollars per bottle. Okay, I multiplied and a 7.5 by 0.3 and I got -2.25. Let me know. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. So -2.25 x to -1.3. Any questions on this? Any questions? Okay, moving on then. 1.7, the chain rule.
Oh,
Yes?
so that's the average revenue, the -2.25 x to -1.3.
We have to plug in 81. I forgot. Sorry. Negative 2.25 times 81 to negative 1.3. I got carried away when I explained too much. I forget what I'm doing. So negative 2.25 multiplied by 81. Don't forget power in parentheses, negative 1.3. Close, enter. Okay, here it is. Negative 0.007434 dollars per bottle. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me what I was doing. Well done. Okay. I don't want to confuse anyone.
And one last question.
Yes, please, anything.
And what does the negative sign means?
What is the what?
The negative sign and
Decreasing. It's a decreasing, a very good question. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So it means that at that point in time, the average revenue, when we produce 81 bottles, the average revenue is decreasing by this tiny, tiny number, but it's still decreasing. Very good. Thank you. The chain rule is for function composition. Okay, for function composition. Very good. So what is this all about, function composition? Well, almost everything is a function composition. But so for example, if I have x plus 1 to the third power, this function can be decomposed into an inner and an outer. If you remember, if anyone remembers what the inner and what the outer represent in this case, what is the inner function, like the function that I will evaluate first, and what is the outer function, the function that I would evaluate last?
is the inner x plus 1
Very good. She remembered. Thank you. And what is the outer?
to the cube root.
I get a number. What is the outer function? That's why I covered it.
X plus 1 to the cube root.
X to the
Cube root.
yeah, to the third power.
To the cube, yeah, sorry.
Good. So now, because of that, we have what is called the chain rule. So in general, we are talking about f comp g of x, which is g is the inner, the closest to x, f is the outer. F of g of x. So how is this related? How are these two examples related? This is the x plus 1. This is the inner function, g of x. And this is the f of x, the function that is applied last, which is power 3. Now the question is, how do I differentiate something like this? And that is the chain rule. So we differentiate first. It's the opposite order. So if I ask you to evaluate this function for 2, you will do the inner function first. You will evaluate the inner function first. You will say 2 plus 1 first. You get 3. And now to 3, you apply power 3. When we differentiate, we go the reverse way. I have to differentiate the outer function first, evaluate it at g of x, and then multiply, chain, multiplied by the inner function prime. So first I differentiate the outer, and then I differentiate the inner. And if I have 3, I will differentiate the outer, then the inner, and then the innermost. So that's the chain rule. So let's look at some examples. Please open on page, which page? 163. Page 163. If you want to choose, please do. Anything you want from 1 through, my goodness, 1 through 56.
Start with
Yes?
25.
I was just going to say 25. That's awesome. I was just looking at 25. Somebody's reading my mind. I have to be careful. One of my professors said that he was always writing his exams 5 minutes before the test because he thought that students were reading his mind. Can you believe it? Okay, so this is already a product rule. So it's a product rule combined with a chain rule already. So we're already skipping a step. So maybe I should just leave this for a moment and just show you one example first before we go for the product. So let me just show one before this one. Let's say that's a tough one. I don't want to start with that. Yeah, I'm going to start with 10. So 10 is y equals 8x squared minus 6 raised to negative 40. I'll come back to this. We're not going to forget about it. We have time to finish it. So see, this is the inner function, and the power is the outer. So when I differentiate y prime, I have to start, what is my prop? I have to start by differentiating the outer. So I have blah, blah, blah to negative 40. So I have to bring the power in front as we did all the time. I have to write what I have in parentheses. To which power now?
Negative 41.
Thank you very much. So I have to copy it now, which is 8x squared minus 6. So this is what I have. I differentiated the outer function. Negative 40 times blah, blah, blah to negative 41. Now multiplied by the inner function prime. The inner function prime. This is the inner. So can anyone give us the differentiated inner function?
16x.
That's it. No one can do anything to this. No one should do anything to this. You can write the negative 40 times 16. I'll do that in a moment. Right? 64 with a 0. 640x over 8x squared minus 6 to the 41st power. This is it. So this is 640. 640x, I multiplied negative 40 by 16, I got negative 640x, and this has a negative power, goes to the denominator. Done. Now we're ready for one more. Let me see, oh, square root, that's an ugly one. This is number 8. These are all ugly. Why are they all ugly? Because remember what we know about the square root of x. When we differentiate the square root of x, what do we get? Please, everybody should scream this at the same time.
1 over 2 square roots x.
Great job. Thank you very much. Good. But now, I have a function. I don't have x here. Look, I have all this thing, which is a much more difficult function. So then, when I have the square root of a function prime, the method is the same, 1 over 2, the square root of the function, but now I have to multiply by the function prime. Here, I can do the same thing if you want. But why I don't do it? Because this equals how much?
1x.
That's it. The rate of change of x is 1. That's why we didn't write it. There was no need. But here there is a need. So when I differentiate this, I will have page 9. So when I differentiate, I will copy it here. Y equals the square root of 4x squared plus 1. I differentiate y prime. I do have exactly the same. But I cannot stop here because I need to differentiate the inner function. Can anyone give us the inner function prime?
AX.
Good. Okay, we'll finish now with 25. Any questions for me?
That was the final answer?